and welcome to a quick review. So this one will be about KTM 1290 Super Adventure R. This is my new bike. Well, it's a couple of days old already. I went through the break-in process. I've been to a dealer after 1000 kilometers already, and so this is it. So I got rid of my BMW R1200 Adventure, GS Adventure, and this is what I got instead. So the reasons of change, probably partially pure warranty from the BMW. Everything to change for warranty is a pain, and so also not enough love, I guess, to their customers by BMW. But lots of love from KTM so far. Very good guys in the dealership here, ready to help all the time, like really good human beings. Something which is missing, I guess, not in the BMW. You feel what they care about you. So this is 2018 model, brand new model year 2018. And so let's talk about the bike a little bit. So let's start with most important part of every bike, which is suspension. Suspension of this bike is fully adjustable. It has in front compression damping adjuster, rebound adjuster, and a preload. What it's missing from like top level suspensions, it's a high speed compression damping adjustment, which is usually can be, well, not usually, but sometimes can be found on super sport bikes, I guess. But that's not a big trouble, I guess. So in the shock we have low speed compression damping, high speed compression damping, or some call it mid speed compression damping adjustment, and rebound and the preload of a shock. All of that is manual adjustment. So on the S model you have electronic suspension, on the R model you adjust everything yourself, which I like. I have some experience in that area. The bike comes with specific adjustments or settings printed on the side panel, so you could adjust, well, to the standard settings as KTM recommend for the comfort, standard, and the sport riding. On the sport, the suspension is quite harsh in the rear, and it, with my spine where I have two hesitated discs, give me some pain while riding. But generically, suspension is quite good. I would give it, let's say, 8 out of 10. And it's I think it's better when on the S model by the feel of it. I took S model for a test ride as well before buying this. So the next thing, ergonomics of this bike. Well, I had to change the seat because the standard seat is motocross style on this bike, enduro style, just mono seat, where the pillion is not separated from the rider seat, and that seat is quite harsh, so I had to change it to this comfort seat from KTM Power Parts. And for me the seat is much better, and this is adjustable in two positions as well, high and low. With my height of 1.85 meters, approximately 6 feet, even low position feels quite high, so I can barely touch ground with both of my feet sitting on this bike. But for the comfort, that's a trade-off, which is acceptable, I guess. The bars are fully adjustable. You can adjust the length and you can move them forward. Sorry, you can adjust the angle and you can move them forward or backward through these mountings over here. The mountings I changed as well. This is from the KTM Power Parts, and I bought this because we have vibration damping and some razors. You can put the bars higher, and also yeah, they work quite fine. And by moving the bars back and forth, we just turn this around, and then the bars will be closer to you. So I prefer it to be farther from me, and the bars in a like aggressive off-road position at notch number 2 over here. All moved forward. So these handguards are actually again from KTM power parts, because the standard ones do suck a lot and they're not strong at all. So I bought this because they're stronger, and they currently adjusted in this kind of low position. I would prefer to have them higher, but if I do that, then it's gonna be touching in here. It's touching right now, but not too bad. But if I move them up, it's gonna hit the windshield frame quite badly. That's a trade-off again. Of course, if you have your bars in a standard position, then this problem won't happen. So for ergonomics, it's kind of okay, probably like, I don't know, 7 out of 10. And comparing to a GS Adventure I had before, I would give that about 9 out of 10 for this measure, I guess. Wind protection is quite important, so on this bike wind protection is much worse comparing to the GS Adventure. Probably because of quite a narrow screen windshield. A lot of wind is hitting your shoulders and arms. It doesn't create a nice, let's say, protected air bubble behind it. I ordered replacement, aftermarket replacement for this part. I'll have it much wider. And again, even this windshield is not from this model. The R comes with really short windshield, even worse than this, which is good for off-roading, but if you need to do a touring before you hit the off-road, it's still better to have a proper windshield. Alright, so this is ergonomics and wind protection. So wind protection comparing to GS is much worse. What else? Engine is really good. It's not as torquey on the low end, I guess, but good enough. But as RPMs grow, it becomes really strong, powerful, and very controllable, I would say. So I really like this. I would prefer this engine over GS engine anytime. I did change the stock exhaust to this cheap GPR just to have some nicer sound, I guess. I'll probably change it back soon. This is a bit too loud and doesn't look fine. I don't know. It was me just playing around, I guess. What else? So engine, well, in this sector, adventure sector, is probably 9 out of 10, with GS being like, I don't know, 7 out of 10. Tires, as you can see, this is kind of off-road oriented setup here on the R model. The rear rim is 18-inch, the front 21-inch. Very narrow front wheel and narrow rear wheel. Good in sand. So if you're talking about the off-road capabilities of this bike, it's incomparably better than GS. Much better, especially in sand and mud. You can do lots of things with this bike that GS just can't. Well, at least GS Adventure, which I had. So this bike is much better off-road, and it's still okay on the road. So I think this is more like a 50-50 balanced bike, road and off-road, comparing to GS, which is biased towards the road riding. However, for the long distance travel, I would still prefer R1200 GS Adventure to this one. But this is just more fun to ride. I guess GS Adventure just, I don't know, is too too boring at some point becomes. And this one is kind of revitalizing your motorcycling experience. This is what you can say about this bike. You need to get used to it. It takes a couple of days of riding. Well, to me it took about 1,000 kilometers to get used to the new experiences this bike provides. And again, I'm not paid by KTM, this is just my pure own honest opinion on this. So now regarding problems. So first of all, the heat coming from the engine and exhaust. So today temperature at max was approximately 25 degrees, a sunny day, 25 degrees Celsius I mean. I'm not sure how much that is in Fahrenheit. And sitting in the traffic, like when you cannot pass through the cars, just sitting there at the red light, yeah, you can still feel some heat, but it's not too bad. Yeah, and one more upgrade I did, I changed the pipe, this down pipe from engine here to a part from KTM power parts. So this has additional insulation, I'm not sure if you can see it, but it has additional insulation around it. So it doesn't, let's say, radiate as much heat as a standard pipe. However, what I noticed, this pipe burns and it smells really bad. If you're riding like at a full open throttle for quite a long stretches, well, something burns inside and you can see smoke coming from it. I haven't seen any flames yet, but the smell is terrible. Probably it will burn out through some time. We shall see. At least 1,200 approximately or something like that kilometers didn't kill it yet, so it still burns and smells. If it keeps doing that, I'll replace it with a standard part, but that helps with the heat. So the heat coming into the seat has the heat insulation from the other side as well. All of that together helps with the heat, but does not remove the problem completely, but it's bearable, it's not too bad. However, if you live in much hotter countries, maybe that will be a problem for you. What else? Yeah, the steering. Some people reported they have a problem with a shaky front end. Front end starts to wobble at high speed. I have not experienced that yet, so the bike is stable when you release the bars, but what I noticed is because of a bad wind protection, if you're driving at a high speed behind cars, sometimes the turbulence of air from that car causing your arms to shake, and that shakes the bars and motorcycle starts to shake. But if you loosen your grip on the bars, everything stabilizes. But as I said, that's probably due to bad wind protection. But what I did is to increase the stability generically. I raised the motorcycle on the forks, so only the caps of the forks are visible now. It's just to, relax the front geometry a little bit, and it's also better for off-roading, so more weight in the rear. The bike doesn't sink that much into the sand, which is fine. And off-road capabilities are just amazing. Comparing again to R1200 GS Adventure I had before. Alright, so what else I can say? Yeah, the engine protection, you can see where from the bottom of an engine. That is also from KTM power parts. It's quite thick and strong. I like it. So this bike comes with a plastic radiator protector, which is, I think, strong enough for small stones. If I see holes in it, maybe I'll change that to a metal one, but this one seems okay to me. I don't think I'm gonna break it. Not at the speeds what I'm driving off-road, at least not on the roads here. Yeah, so that's pretty much about the bike. So what is annoying about this bike is to switch the EBS mode from road mode to off-road mode, you need to actually stop. stop completely, come to a complete stop, and then change your mode. And to change your mode you need to hold the button for like some seconds. I'm not sure how long exactly, and that is stupid. I think on the GS you could change the driving modes by press of one button, just cycling through the modes. And I'm really disappointed that on this bike it's not like that. So your friends on the GS will move forward when you switch from asphalt or like a tarmac into some off-road trails, and you need to stop, switch your modes. That's just annoying. But I can say a good thing about this bike, that rear brake is much better than on the GS. It's more controllable. It has much better feel. So on the GS Adventure, the position of a brake lever, even though it had this additional like a top piece which you can flip-flop kind of, it was too low for off-road riding, and also the pedal had no feel at all. Well, to me at least. Especially when you're riding with hard boots, you know, for off-roading. You don't feel exactly how strong you're pressing on that. So the leverage wear is really wrong. So on this one it's much better, it's very controllable, and that shows the KTM genetic experience in the off-roading with their enduro bikes, I think. Well, yeah, this is what it is. It's a big, supersized enduro, well, not enduro, well, yeah, hard enduro or motocross bike. They just amplified everything, and this is what you got eventually. But it's okay on the road, so you can cover long distances. The longest I did on this bike was 680 approximately, or 60, something like that, kilometers ride. And that includes approximately 40 kilometers of quite bad off-road as well, quite hard to go through. And it was okay, so I returned home alive, no problems. Yeah, so this is a bike, so let's ride it maybe and see what else I can come up with. Yeah, the GPS holder doesn't come standard with a bike, so you have to install it, or let your dealer install it. I did it myself, it wasn't too hard. There are auxiliary connections for power under the front lamp or headlight, whatever country you're in, maybe different names. So I connected it in a way when ignition is on. Yeah, that's not legal. Shows what I have additional part connected which remembers ABS settings after ignition, when ignition is switched off. Yeah, in addition to the hassle of changing the modes on this bike, if you don't have that box, again it's a KTM power part, if you don't have that, then the bike will switch into the road ABS mode all the time when you switch off the ignition, keeping the driving mode as off-road. So you may end up in quite a nasty situations with that if you forget to switch it, even though it shows on the dash which mode it is on. You may forget about it, you know, just not look. And the trade-off is that illegal warning, which you can just remove by pressing here on the up or down button. Some road works here. So let's just ride through Vilnius. This is 11:15 p.m. and here normal people are getting ready for tomorrow. Work day will be let's try to stay within reasonable speed limits. Yeah, so this is a bike. This is how it rides and how it feels. Feels alright. And a good thing that I can compare it directly to R1200 GS Adventure in terms of the ride quality and character. The thing about this bike, it's provoking you to do stupid things which GS wouldn't. With GS you're just cruising along, relaxed, suspension is soft. On this one it feels like it wants you to open the throttle more and, you know, just provoking you to drive like a crazy, which we try not to do for the sake of this review to be published when on YouTube. So this road is really bumpy, as you can see, and on the GS Adventure it was much more pleasant to ride like this, slowly. Let's allow this car to pass. I need to readjust the chain. I can hear it hits the chain sliders quite badly. Need to tighten it. Yeah, that's another thing about this bike. It's chain driven. The chain is 525, which with all this torque, probably not enough. I'm not sure why we didn't put 530 on it. Would be better for longevity, I guess. Easier to hold all this torque from the engine. We decided to go with 525 for whatever reason. Yeah, what forgot to mention, what I did to this bike, I changed the rear sprocket from 42 to 45 teeth to allow for easier driving at the slow speeds, like a more power at the slower speeds off-road, and that does really help, I think. And I changed the chain, so to put the back wheel basically almost to the same place where it was before. Otherwise it would be moved forward too much. So now wheelbase is approximately 4 millimeters longer when it used to be. Definitely need to readjust the chain. So low end torque is fine, no problems with that. Of course, on the TKC tires you don't expect too much of a road grip. You need to be careful in turns, especially with 21-inch front wheel. It has really narrow spikes on it. Very different comparing to the front tire for 19-inch rim. This is more off-road orientated. This bike also has this optional electronics package, which includes Quickshifter and some other gadgets. Quickshifter works okay. I think it's, at least on this bike, I think it's better than the Quickshifter on the GS. More precise, but still not as good as on S1000RR, which I also had back in the days. Oh my god, it's 70 already. Yeah, that's the thing about this bike, you need to really control your speed, because you gain speed really quickly. What else about this bike? What else? So I'm not sure so far. After 1,200 approximately kilometers on it, nothing broke. And it has a cruise control as well. Quite a nice feature when you want to free your right hand. Comparing to GS Adventure, the cruise control has a function to restore the speed. Like when you press, let's say, a brake pedal, and you just move the lever up and it will accelerate to whatever speed was set. And you can see exactly what speed it's trying to achieve here on this iPad-like dashboard. The headlight is fine, quite bright. It's okay at night. It has a cornering light, even though probably it could be better. It has a delay before it kicks in. But that's fine, it's better than nothing anyway, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it's a headlight at full power right now. Quite bright, I would say. I can see all the road perfectly. What else? What else? Well, I probably need to ride it more and wait for the things to break. Because on the GS Adventure, only after 2 years of ownership, I found out the problem regarding the shaft drive on it. Yeah, this is a cornering light, you see, it works. The higher the link angle, the more segments you see lighting up, which is cool. That really helps. Even though it has a delay, it's still better than nothing. Completely empty dark road here. What else? What else? The brakes. Some people complain about the bad brakes feel. Well, I don't know, I don't have any problems with that. What I did when I got this bike brand new, I cleaned the brake discs with brake disc cleaner. And so I removed a lot of grease, like a bluish color grease. I'm not sure what that was. Probably it's for storage to protect brake discs from rusting while the motorcycle is in storage. And so maybe that is the reason that for some of the guys the dealership didn't remove those. And so this is how we got problems with the brakes. I'll probably change the brake pads and put some kind of a Brembo SC compound pads into front and SX into the rear. But even right now as it is, brakes are quite good. Well, at least on this specific bike which I have. So on a speeds like this, kind of in pretty much legal boundaries, through the road like this, it's a pure pleasure. The bike turns very well, it holds the trajectory quite well. Of course this is not a super sport bike, so don't expect same handling as in a super sport, but it's quite alright. Comparing to GS, even especially right now when I adjusted the geometry in the front by dropping the forks or raising the bikes on the forks, the bike is just a bit lazier comparing to the GS. So GS geometry is extremely aggressive, I think too aggressive for that type of a bike or this type of a bike. And that shows off-road, and this lazy geometry does really help off-road for this bike, especially in a deep sand. I did some riding on a motocross track today which had really loose sand, very deep, and I managed to go through it, not with a pleasure, which is due to my lack of skills. I had motocross bike 450, but comparing to this big beast, that is much less scary in a deep sand, because that doesn't sink that much, and it's easy to correct all the problems, because your weight influences the handling much more comparing on this one. On this one, the only solution you have to everything is open throttle more. But when you do that, you still need some distance for the bike to correct it. To correct itself. This is for the cases when you're in really big trouble, when the bike is almost like uncontrollably falling. But again, it's both lack of my skills and extremely deep sand on that track. I think experienced rider would pass that track no problem at all, with a big smile on his face. Yeah, and the motorcycles, it all comes down to a skill and adaptation level you have. Like some people adapt easier than others. And again, I'm riding this bike for the 4th day right now, that's all. So I don't have much experience with it. I think I kind of get used to it, but probably not completely yet. Oh, this is a hill hold function. You see TC blinking? So the bike is holding itself now for 6 seconds after release of brakes. On GS that function is done differently, and I think smarter comparing to this bike, but whatever, different manufacturers have different ideas. Both way it kind of works. So where is my green arrow for the left turn? I don't see it. Some of the traffic lights in here in Vilnius, they ignore motorcycles for whatever reason. Like, if I would be here on the car, I would probably get my green arrow already, but on a motorcycle it just doesn't switch. Some automated system problems, I guess. Yeah, it's cycling through a green light but not changing to the left turn, so let's just drive straight then. I guess that's the only option we have. And then let's turn around. Yeah, now I think about this bike, but the turn radius is much bigger comparing to the GS. And that shows. Yes, that's pretty much, we can sum it up, I think. The bike is more fun on GS. It's okay to ride long distances, but not as comfortable as GS. This bike is much better off-road comparing to the GS. And the engine is provoking you to go over speed limits all the time, because it's extremely powerful, especially with the gearing as it is. Traction control works fine on this bike, no problems with that. So you can do full throttle if the traction control is enabled. You can do full throttle and just wait for the traction control to sort things out. The interesting thing about the engine, like on the GS, when it goes close to the max RPM or passing, let's say, the max power point, you can feel that, so you can switch without looking at the dashboard at the right time. So with this motorcycle, that is completely different story. So it spins into the red line extremely easily, and so you find yourself really quickly hitting the rev limiter. That is interesting phenomena. Probably because it's derived from this, faster Brauer 1290 Super Duke, which derived from RC8, kind of a super sport model. But yeah, engine is much better on GS. Well, at least in terms of power. Not sure about reliability yet. Is it worth to switch? Was it a good idea? Well, I really don't know. It's maybe because I got bored with a GS adventure and wanted something new. But one thing for sure, in general, this bike can be described as a bike which is more fun to ride comparing to a GS adventure. More involving rides. And it pulls a smile to your face more often on GS. And that's probably a good thing, isn't it? Well, of course I cannot show you my smile right now, because this review will be on YouTube, isn't it? So we want to stay within reasonable Good Samaritan behavior here. Yeah, this is the city of Vilnius. See those buildings, skyscrapers. Built not so long ago. Quite nice looking, isn't it? I don't know what else to say. That's pretty much it for the review. The rest will be just random thoughts and driving in Vilnius at night. Well, this is not a bad bike, isn't it? Probably comes down to, as always, to your personal choice. You wanna just be comfortable, travel long distances with little off-road capabilities. Well, we are not little. You can ride very long distances on adventure, GS Adventure off-road. It's just the type of a surface of that road. This is what matters. I think GS, because of his aggressive geometry and a big tank, he has a lot of weight on the front tire, which is good for road riding, but not so good for off-road. But GS has a shaft drive, which is rusting eventually if you don't do little modifications to drain the water easily from the shaft drive, well, from the swing arm actually. If you don't, then eventually it will rust. You need to remove the drive shaft, but if you have the drainage done correctly, then you probably do that once a season. Sorry guys, I just wanna go. Too many cars in front of me. Look at that, nobody is in a speed limit. See that? It's 60 here, I'm driving 74. Look at that. The taxi driver passing me. Yeah, nobody cares about the speed limits really. I wonder why the speed limits are there, like to scare all of us. A smarter system would be like allow people to drive any speed they like at all. Let them evaluate their own capabilities, I guess. But would put some GPS trackers, black boxes in the cars, and if there is an accident and you've been driving too fast and the cause of an accident was exactly the speed and not something else, then just close that, just jail that motherfucker, I guess. That would be better solution, isn't it? Well, you can still have signs if, let's say, recommended speed limits. Yeah, because I guess there is too much hype about the speed limits generically. Like if you're driving alone on a long stretch of road, straight stretch of road, and you're driving, let's say, I don't know, 90 kilometers an hour where it's supposed to be 60, and there's no cars around you in the middle of the night, and why not? I mean, reasonably. Of course, it might be what will be some drunk motherfucker who tries to cross the road at that point, but that's a problem of that drunk motherfucker, isn't it? Who's crossing in the wrong place. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think the system should be smarter, especially with all these electronic gadgets available right now. I guess it could be easier, or put a cameras in every freaking car, and if there is an accident you can actually see what happened. And if you're driving too fast for the conditions, then it's your fault and you should be penalized then. Yeah, I guess that would be the right thing to do. Maybe traffic would move quicker. There will be less traffic jams or something. Maybe. I don't know, it's just a thought. The thing is, so many speed cameras around nowadays just to collect some money from people for no freaking reason. Just another income. Yeah, and unmarked police cars. Oh, this guy couldn't find his accelerator pedal. Look at that. He forgot what accelerator pedal is on the right side. Anyway. Remember what I'm on a TKC 80 tires. Slowly, carefully, here we go. Yeah, acceleration is astonishing. You see, no wobble at all. The bike is stable as a rock. And if I move the bars, it stabilizes. See that? Immediately. So I'm not sure why ours experienced that problem. But it's definitely not on this bike. Probably that geometry change helped a little bit. Look at that. Even trying to put it into a wobble immediately stabilizes itself. Yep. See that? Nothing. What else? What else? What else? Nothing. Whereas it's just driving, cruising along on a nice piece of road. Yeah, it's definitely slower to turn, and you need to more input on the bars, because this bike has very long trail. Very long trail, which is good for off-roading again. So you can see the bias of this bike and the bias of a GS Adventure. So GS Adventure is really road oriented more. Well, I'm talking about the liquid cooled GS Adventure, of course. The older model I think is better on the off-road, on the new one. And this bike is more biased towards off-road, or more biased towards real true 50-50. What you can also think, well, or as an example, BMW some long time ago, when they bought Husqvarna, I'm not sure what's the right pronunciation. We released some of bikes together with Husqvarna. Quite a funny bikes actually, or fun bikes, not funny, fun bikes. And one of them was HP2 Enduro. It had a oil-cooled hexahead boxer in it, small tank, proper forks in the front, long travel suspension, so 21-inch front wheel. So that bike was definitely off-road oriented or orientated. And I think this bike from KTM, even though it has much bigger tank, which is 23 liters, it's about the same concept, I think. When we took the off-roading on a big bike to just a higher level. And maybe this is something which I liked about this bike as well. But this is not so road biased. And it's fun in the off-road. There is something to that. Of course you can ride hard enduro off-road and you can do lots of things with it, and it will be quite easy to go through all these places, which seems quite hard on this one. There is something to that, just overcoming all these, I don't know, overcoming all these problems related to having heavy, powerful bike off-road, or riding heavy, powerful bike off-road. Maybe that's part of the fun. Yeah, driving within speed limit is not appreciated, you see. People get pissed at me. This is what I'm saying. So why would you have speed limit like this, 80 kilometers an hour in here, if like every freaking driver understands that that speed is a joke, that speed limit is a joke, and they all want to drive faster. Something strange. Maybe it's a part of a global conspiracy. I just hate when a car is just driving nearby you, not faster than you, just at the same freaking speed. Come on. Finally. So I think deciding which bike to buy, you need to test drive both of them, and when evaluate what your skill will grow with the time, so you'll get better with that bike, and just choose whatever you like. Of course, if you're a shorter person, no offense, but it's true, you will have problems with this bike, because it's quite high. It has a big V engine, so big V engine, big wheels, long suspension travel, which is 220 millimeters. Third gear roll on from like 2000 RPM. Let's try that. Third gear, 2000 RPM. Almost. Come on. 2000. Yeah, this is just freaking crazy. See that? It pulls your arms off, even from 2000 RPM. And I think I closed the throttle a little bit. It has a very long 6 gear. Yeah, so if you're really a short person, then you probably need to look at something like Africa Twin in this segment. And I don't really like that Africa Twin at all, but you know, if you don't have any other options. Or 1200 GS, which even has like a lowered suspension version, which is a 40 millimeters lower. Of course the suspension travel will be less, which is a not good trade-off, but it's still not that low when you can go with a lower seat on a GS. That really helps if you're around 1.75 m or something, because on this bike with 1.75 m you will have big problems. Well, it's not unrideable, but it will be really uncomfortable in every traffic stop. And off-road in some conditions as well. You know. Oh, I need to look at the speedo more often, because let me just... But see all these cars? They're driving like 100 probably or something. Only the truck drivers are... No, even though they are going above speed limit, I think. Look at that. No. Let's see. Does it go 80? Oh yeah, it does. Yeah. So the truck drivers driving within speed limits. It's a nice bike. Nice bike. Just every bike has its advantages and disadvantages, unfortunately. But this is quite a nice one. I recently tried 790, a street version from KTM. 790 Duke, and I just hated that. Throttle control was extremely bad. And generically the whole bike was kind of, I don't know, maybe it's too fresh. They're gonna fix problems next year, but as it is right now, that bike is just stupid, I think. Speed camera over here, 50. Look at that, look at this place. Why freaking 50 kilometers an hour? Like, why in this place? There is nothing around, just in this specific place is 50. So freaking annoying. 50 here. Alright, so let's be stupidly slow. 50 kilometers an hour. This is how it looks like. 50 kilometers an hour. It's like a speed you can drive a bicycle. Now let's put the cruise control on. 50 kilometers an hour. Brrr. Yeah. Amazing. So you become like a stupid shit immediately when you start driving like that. Look at that. All your brain and thoughts go down. You become like a robot who only pays taxes, moves from point A to point B, and that's it. This is probably what we want from us, isn't it? The government, they want us to pay taxes. And that's it. And fight for them. If there is a war, just die for the fucking whatever we decide for us to die for, and kill our people in the process, isn't it? And drive 50 kilometers an hour, because otherwise nothing will happen. And so I don't know, maybe I'm strange, I just don't. It's a democracy and the freedom of speech, isn't it? Which is less and less every day. But who cares, isn't it? Come on, go. I'll be good. Slowly and slowly. Going back. Probably need some coffee, I think. Yeah, so that's pretty much the end of a review. With a little drive around. Oh, look at that. Some stones. Probably picked them up into my pants earlier, because I've been driving this through some motocross track. It's probably still somewhere in my motorcycle protective gear accumulated. Anyway, decide for yourself. Hope this review was helpful to give you some, I don't know, my opinion on this bike. And it's still a hard choice actually between a GS and this one. It's probably deciding factor. You want to have fun, or you want to be, I don't know, sure that you get from point A to point B with a good comfort and some fun as well on the GS. Yep, that's a choice you need to make, choosing a bike like this. How much of an off-road you're gonna do? If you're off-road rider, then this is your choice, for sure. If you spend your time mostly on the road, then I'm not sure if this bike would be good for you. But if you want to have fun and powerful engine, then this is a choice for you. I heard BMW will be releasing something like a new version of their GS with just a bit bigger capacity engine and about 10 more horses. I'm not sure if that's true, but that will still not kill this guy in terms of a power. And looking at what BMW do with their newer bikes, they make them more road oriented, and that really doesn't help off-road, isn't it? Alright guys, see you next time. Maybe I have something else to say about the bike. Have a great day or night or whatever time of the day you have.